Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast and iTunes #1 kids and family podcast. And we've also been nominated for the iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award. We have an absolutely wonderful guest, especially right before Thanksgiving. Her name is Robin Albertson Wren, and she is the author of Mindfulness for Kids. Yeah, I'm really excited to introduce you to Robin. She's written a great book, and she has some great insights into how we can help our kids kind of slow down and be mindful of what's happening to them, and to be mindful of what's going on in the present moment, to really be thoughtful of the choices that they make. That's something you do. I know it's something you do, especially when it comes time to buying that perfect holiday gift for the curious kids in your life. I mean, I know you're not just going out there and just buying something for the sake of buying something. You want to get a gift that's going to ignite that kid's imagination and curiosity. Well, I have the perfect gift. Little Passports is the perfect holiday gift for curious kids of all ages. Little Passports delivers fun-filled packages right to their door every single month with engaging hands-on activities, interactive projects, and unique souvenirs just waiting to be discovered. Little Passports monthly subscriptions are designed to spark kids' imagination about geography, world cultures, or science. From exploring sea creatures in Costa Rica to building a Big Ben just like the one in England, or making an ancient Greek headpiece. Every month is a different adventure that will fuel their imagination and spark their natural curiosity of the world around them. It really is a perfect gift for kids ages 3 to 13 this holiday season. Order today by going to littlepassports.com/reading. And that's real important to help support the podcast. littlepassports.com/reading. Joining us on the line right now from Charlottesville in Virginia, one of my favorite places in the world. She's a great new book out that she co-authored with one of our friends, Carol P. Roman. The name of the book is Mindfulness for Kids. Our guest is Robin Albertson Wren. Robin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be on.
So happy to have you here. And I think the place we should probably start is by asking you, what do you mean when you use the term mindfulness?
Great question. A great place to start. I like to use a definition that comes from Jon Kabat-Zinn. He's sort of known as the modern day father or grandfather of mindfulness in the United States. And he says that mindfulness is paying attention on purpose to what's happening right now without judgment. So you can be mindful of things that you see or hear or eat or smell or feel, like textures or temperatures, pain sensations, comfort or discomfort. And you can also be mindful about what's going on inside with your emotions. And so the definition sort of means like paying attention to all of that without labeling it good or bad. Take the judgment part out.
Fascinating. And, as you're saying that, I'm trying to be mindful of what you're saying and imagining that. And that it might sound like, duh, of course we're aware of where we are and what we're doing. But no, we really aren't aware. I think most of us go through a big part of our day not being aware, not being mindful of what is going on with them at that moment. They're thinking about what the boss said at work, or what they have to do, or getting through traffic, as I was just talking about getting through DC traffic. There's all these other things that we're aware of, but we're not necessarily aware of what's happening to us, and we're not, a lot of times, not aware of what's going on with the people around us.
Yeah, it's so true. And we spend a lot of time in our own heads. Mm-hmm. Like if you think about having a conversation with someone, oftentimes what people do is they're waiting for a pause so then they can share their own story. So we have a lot of stories going on in our heads, right?
Oh,
and
boy.
A lot of worries a lot of plans, a lot of excitement, and we're doing all of that in our minds and not really noticing what's going on elsewhere. So this happened at my school. I teach at St. Anne's Belfield School, and we were working with all these kids in the elementary school, and we realized when they came in from recess, they weren't ready to do math, right? They needed some sort of settling technique because they were so excited about what had happened at recess or traumatized by it or whatever, and they wanted to talk about it and work through it before they did fractions. So we came up with this idea called the peaceful pause. And we're like, let's just do this at all our transition points and just sit for a moment, breathe, ring a chime or a bell, or do some sort of like relaxation technique, and then we can go on to the next adventure.
What a great idea. It seems so simple, but I know it works. My wife is a teacher in the Boston public schools, and there's not a lot of mindfulness going on in inner city schools. But she was invited to go to Finland to see how schools are happening there, and that is something that they do. That's something that blew the Boston teachers away, is that there was every 45 minutes there was a break. There was a 5-minute break for the kids to pause and to breathe and to just be unstructured. And they noticed that it was just so much easier for the kids to then go into the next subject. There wasn't this struggle, this battle that happens at so many, not only inner city schools, but so many schools transitioning from one subject to another, from one part of the building to another.
Yeah. It's so interesting how so many schools have bells and times when they say, okay, now it's time to move on to the next thing. And we really have to make sure that we are honoring the fact that these little human beings have some of the same needs that grown-ups do. If you can imagine suddenly somebody coming into you in the middle of the workday and being like, okay, time to go. You'd be like, okay, I'll be there in a minute, right? Just leap up and abandon everything. And we sort of expect kids to do that. So building in those transition times, I think, is really important, and honoring what human beings need in order to cope.
Yeah. It's funny, and I was trying to be very mindful and stay right with you, but when you're mentioning conversations and how oftentimes conversations aren't really conversations, they're just, people are just waiting for the other person to stop talking so they can jump in. That is something that I noticed when my son was in early elementary school, so 1st through 4th grade. Boy, he had a best friend, and they would be in the back of my van oftentimes, and they never ever had a conversation. They would talk the entire time they were in my van, but it wasn't a conversation. It was one person spoke, and when that person took a breath, the other person started speaking. It wasn't related at all. They weren't responding to each other. They were just two totally different things, but they were very happy and content with each other.
They're a good pair.
Yeah, they really were. Now, I noticed, one of the reasons I noticed this is because it was so much different than what was happening when my daughter and her dance team partners were in the back of the van. They were engaged in conversation. Is this something that is a typical difference between boys and girls, or is it just, differences between kids?
Well, I'm sensing it's probably a difference between ages. Okay. I don't know the ages of your kids then, but you can certainly grow into it. And then you grow out of it too, right? Like I work with 3 and 4-year-olds in the mornings. I work with middle schoolers and college kids and then grown-ups. And so I practice mindful listening and conversation with all of them. And for really little kids, what it looks like is, you set a timer and they have 2 minutes to share their story, and they hold the stuffed animal while they're sharing their story, and nobody else can speak unless you're holding the stuffed animal, and then you pass it on. And you need reminders constantly during that. Okay, this is somebody else's time to share. And, your only job is to listen. And then when you do it with middle schoolers, they don't want to speak at all. Right? Because they're going to be judged by each other. So that's another whole issue. And then grown-ups, it's fascinating practicing it. I've done lots of conferences, and I work in these little workshops with grown-ups, and I put everybody in groups of 3. And I've done this with high school kids as well. And one person is the speaker, one person's the listener, and the other person's the observer. And the observer's challenge is to watch both the speaker and the listener, which is interesting because we tend to sort of just watch the person who's telling the story. Mm-hmm. And just notice how we let each other know that we're listening, how we let each other know that we're paying attention. And because the listener is not allowed to say anything, they really can tune into what's being said because they don't have to have their own story going. They don't have to ask questions. Mm-hmm. They're not allowed to, mm-hmm. right? So they're just right there focused on the story. And people find that if you don't interrupt someone and ask them questions, they often answer the questions by telling their story. Mm-hmm. I also then say to people, listen, I'm not asking that we all go around and never speak, right? That's part of conversation is going back and forth and that give and take, which is really important. But to really sort of consider, is this my story and I'm derailing this conversation to go my way, or am I really interested in what they have to say? And just sort of noticing that, right? Without judgment. Mm-hmm. You're not a bad listener or a good listener. You're just listening or you're not.
Right. Boy, the political discourse in the country could really use some mindfulness and some of this training, because there's not any discussion going on. There's a lot of yelling back and forth and a lot of name calling on both sides, and it's really frustrating, especially for me, I've been going around and presenting educational magic shows and trying to inspire kids to be respectful and stand up for each other and help each other. And then it's just like they go home and they turn on the TV and all this nonsense that's happening from people we're supposed to be looking up to, people who are supposed to be leading us and being an example. Mm-hmm. Do you have hope that this generation that you're working with will be able to really embrace the ideas of mindfulness and carry it forward?
Absolutely. I think, a big piece of mindfulness, attention to what's going on with you, but also there's this huge building compassion part. We do all these activities called loving kindness, where you're sending good thoughts to yourself, which is an amazing technique to think about. Like if you start your day sending yourself good thoughts instead of all the judgment that we tend to pile on, and that usually starts at age 8. Mm-hmm. But so I love working with little kids because they're like, why would I think something bad about myself? But then thinking about how other people are connected to us, people that we know and love that sometimes cause us grief, mm-hmm. right? That are high maintenance relationships, but we work on them. We spend the time and energy because we love them. Mm-hmm. And then people that we don't necessarily love, that we tend to avoid, right? Even sending them compassion because somebody loved them. Or somebody loves them. Somebody agrees with them, right? Even if you don't agree with their decisions. And just looking at them in a light where you sort of notice their humanity, right? So I definitely have hope that this next generation and everybody who's alive and around today will sort of grow from all of our experiences of discontent and anger and violence and all of this and be able to look at things in a different way. It may take loads of time and lots of practice. It's not easy. But some of it's simple.
Tell me, I love this idea of sending compassion. And in my mind, it sounds like a win-win. I mean, you're sending compassion and so that's a good thing for that person. But I also think it's a good thing for you. Thinking these good thoughts. What about that? How do we send compassion and how do we teach our kids to do it? Robin will be back in just a moment to teach us how we can teach our kids to send compassion out into the world. In the meantime, I just want to remind you how you can get the perfect holiday gift for the curious kids in your life. LittlePassports.com/reading. Little Passports is a perfect holiday gift for curious kids of all ages. Little Passports delivers fun-filled packages right to their door every single month with engaging hands-on activities, interactive projects, and unique souvenirs just waiting to be discovered. Little Passports monthly subscriptions are designed to spark children's imagination and curiosity about geography, world cultures, and science. From exploring sea creatures in Costa Rica to building a Big Ben just like the one in England or making an ancient Greek headpiece, every month is a different adventure that will fuel their imagination and spark their natural curiosity of the world around them. It is the perfect gift for kids ages 3 to 13 this holiday season. You can order today by going to littlepassports.com/reading. littlepassports.com/reading. How do we send compassion and how do we teach our kids to do it?
So what I like to do is to have you close your eyes and imagine somebody. Let's start with somebody that you care about, but that is sort of a high maintenance relationship, right? Somebody who you sort of have to work on things with them, but you do because you love them, like I said before, right? And imagine this person in a place they love to be. Imagine them doing something they love to do. And you might be with them, or they might be by themselves or with other people. You can even imagine the weather, the time of year, the time of day, whether they're inside or outside. And they might be smiling or laughing. And then you send them 5 wishes. And you're just going to do this in your own head, right? And you can say this out loud. You can say it inside yourself. And the wishes I like to use are, may you be happy. May you be healthy in body and mind and spirit. May you believe in yourself. May you stay safe and free from harm. May you feel peaceful. And so then you can practice doing that to yourself and to people that you don't really care about or people that you know out in the world, right? You can even send those kind of wishes to a situation, something you're anxious about. Be like, may this be safe. May this situation be filled with healthy choices. May we believe in the possibilities that can come out of this, whether it's a difficult, performance or a difficult conversation or whatever it may be. May we feel at ease. May we feel peaceful during it. So, I love doing that. And I like to start every day by doing, it's called loving kindness meditation for myself. And then for the people in my immediate family, my 2 amazing children and my husband, and then somebody in my extended family, and then somebody that I just know out in the world. And that takes about 10 minutes. That's a nice way to start the day.
Yeah. I imagine starting the day with those really good feelings is, like I said before, it's a real benefit for you. It kind of gets you into a really kind of good, positive space, I imagine.
Yes, it really, these are wishes that you're saying sort of out loud or inside yourself, and the other people may never know about them, right? But it's amazing when you think kind thoughts or happy thoughts, how it makes you feel that way, right? If you smile at yourself in the mirror, it's hard not to feel good, right? So when you're focusing positively, it actually affects your body language, right? You actually open up. When you see people that you love and you're excited to see, you often fling your arms. You're like, hello, right? And when you're feeling grouchy, you're all curled up inside yourself. So if you are feeling grouchy and you sort of fling yourself open and do some jumping jacks and look out at the horizon, you can change the way your body and mind are connecting with each other to feel better. So yeah, loving kindness really can make yourself feel good. And you might notice a little shift in the way that you are sensing the other person when you do see them, right? Maybe they are sort of a high maintenance friend, but they're really funny too. And you're glad you're with them, right? Or, gosh, I didn't know that person was going to make that decision. And that's really frustrating. But you know what? I feel better about them in other ways because I was thinking fondly of them this morning.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you start your day off in this kind of calm, positive place, it's a lot easier to move forward with that same kind of vibe going on, as opposed to if you wake up and you're grumpy and then you're grumpy for the whole day.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm mentioning it and I'm saying me, and it's coming from me, and the name of the book is Mindfulness for Kids, but boy, oh boy, I think a family sitting down and reading this together, I'm imagining that the parents or the grandparents can get just as much out of this book as the kids.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because, it says on the very front cover, it says for kids ages 6 to 10. Uh-huh. But some of these techniques are ones that I use with college kids. Mm-hmm. So, it's 30 fun activities that are mindfulness activities and 15 short stories. So what it is are these stories that kids sort of find themselves in. Like there are these two brothers and they're jumping on the bed, their parents' bed, and then they break a mirror and they are frozen in horror at what they've done. And so then, and the story stops. They're short stories. And then after that are 2 mindfulness activities that come from other kids. So there's other kids sort of helping kids. And they say, oh gosh, when something like this happens to me, when I do something that I feel really guilty about, this is what I do. Or if somebody I love is mean to me, and I feel really bad about myself, this is what I do. Or when the game doesn't go the way I thought it was going to go, or I didn't play the way I thought I was going to play, this is what I do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So 30 activities, 15 stories. And so you can read them proactively, so later when your kid's freaking out at home, parents or grandparents or caregivers can turn to it and say, oh, do you remember that yoga move that they said is really calming on page 57? Let's go do that.
Yeah. Now I have to ask a question, because I know there's some people out there, if they haven't already turned off the podcast because their first reaction, mindfulness, that's like that woo-woo stuff. What's your response to the people who are saying, this is just kind of out there, old hippie, woo-woo, new agey kind of stuff, nonsense. I live in the real world.
Yeah, right. So, if you're ever stressed, right, and you're living in the real world, then you sort of say, well, how's that working out for you, right? Like, how are you handling the stress? So I love this. Somebody said once, in the 70s, people would start jogging and people would see them jogging and they'd say, I wonder what they're afraid of. Why are they running down the street, right? Something must be chasing them. And now, if people don't work out, go running in the morning or go to the gym, they feel guilty, right? Mm-hmm. So we're on this other level sort of self-care. Mm-hmm. Well, mindfulness is sort of becoming the next level. And it's been around for thousands and thousands of years, right? But in the United States, it's really only been around since the 80s. And it's used for people with chronic pain. But you don't have to have chronic pain, right? You can be perfectly happy, but then have these stress management tools, mm-hmm. right? I feel like I'm a really happy person, and yet every morning I do my mindfulness practice. I do it with my students. I do it on my own. I go to yoga, which is mindful movement, other ways to self-care. So I think there's nothing wrong with taking care of yourself, right? We're not saying you're not going to be stressed out, but you're going to have tools to manage it. Mm-hmm. And I think if you can have your 3 and 4 year olds and your 6 and 8 year olds, doing this stuff as kids, then we're not waiting till they're teenagers in therapy to start dealing with their emotions mm-hmm. and dealing with the way they handle stress and anxiety, right? I think if we can teach this sooner than later, then people realize they have these tools. And the tools in the book are all things that you have inside yourself, mm-hmm. right? It's all free. Mm-hmm. The book's not free, but that's the only thing you have to spend money on, right? So these tools are available to us and free all the time. We just have to tap into them. And so I'm just giving people in the world some of these tools, letting what they are.
You're talking about giving kids tools so they hopefully maybe don't have to get into therapy later on. So many parents these days are dealing with kids who have, I joke about it in my show because it's something that I had when I was younger. I had all this extra energy, and had difficulty sitting in my seat and paying attention. Do you see this as something that, a tool that we teach kids that can help those kids with extra energy kind of focus a little bit and maybe kind of harness that extra energy themselves without needing all the medications that have all these nasty side effects? Yeah.
Well, you never know. I mean, everybody's case is different, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody's life is different. But there are certainly so many tools that children can take to to help with ADHD, to help with attending when you're taking an exam and you want to remember the things you studied, all of this. I do have an experience where, if I've taught an after-school class and I have a lot of third graders' parents signing their third grade boy up because they want me to fix him and have him not, have him be able to sit in his spot at dinner. And so here's my important message is that mindfulness, we got to remember that non-judgment piece, right? Mm-hmm. I am not going to teach kids how to be calm and centered all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give them tools so that if they're in class and they zone out, it's their choice. I want to help kids who are sitting in class and they're looking out the window and then they come back and they're like, oh my gosh, I haven't been listening for 20 minutes. What happened? Where was I? Mm-hmm. I'm giving them tools to be paying attention on purpose to what's happening right now. And then if you're like, I don't really want to listen to this and this is not important to me and this is the natural consequence that I want to deal with later, I'm going to not pay attention right now, mm-hmm. then they're actually being mindful, mm-hmm. right? They're making a choice. Uh-huh. So I think it's important to recognize that these tools will help us be the best we can be and choose to be in every moment as we access them.
Well, I really like that because that message I think is empowering, helping kids understand that they're making choices mm-hmm. throughout the day and that they really do have control over it. And that's so much more empowering than going through life thinking that life is happening to you and that all these things are going on and they're happening to you and you don't have any power over it.
Right. Or that you're breaking the rules or you're following the rules, mm-hmm. right? It's more than that. You can think of mindfulness sort of as a superpower. Mm-hmm. And so once you tap into it, you own it, you've got it. And then you just choose to use it.
Yeah. Awesome. I love this. I know I've been very mindful. There are times when I go to church and I am very mindful that when that homily starts, I am going to close my eyes and meditate deeply and catch up on some sleep. So anyways, where can folks find out more about Mindfulness for Kids?
So, Mindfulness for Kids is available on Amazon. You can get it there. I have information on mindfulness on my own website, which I can share with you as well. It's called Mind Awake, mm-hmm. www.mind-awake.weebly.com. And then we were part of the Children's Book Review, so that's fun. If you want to Google children'sbookreview.com, they have a little piece on mindfulness for kids that you can read about.
Excellent. Well, I really do want folks to check it out. Mindfulness for Kids. I do think that this would be a super book to add to your family library. I think has some great opportunities, some great lessons for kids, some great lessons for parents, some great lessons for families. I'm thinking about maybe just taking a minute. Saying grace before dinner was so important for our family just to take a break. And I know a lot of families aren't religious, but just taking a moment to be mindful of we're having this time together and we're having this dinner together and let's just take a moment and breathe. And I think that would be very helpful for a lot of families.
Yeah. And you could even just take a moment to recognize where the food came from, Absolutely. Right? If somebody in your family made it for you, mm-hmm. or whether it was grown in another country and mm-hmm. shipped over here, and just noticing all those little pieces that help nourish you that night. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Adding a little gratefulness. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we are really grateful that you came and helped nourish our souls and our spirits tonight. So thank you so much. Check out the book, Mindfulness for Kids. It's co-written by J. Robin Albertson Wren and our friend Carol P. Roman. Robin, I've had such a great time speaking to you today. Thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you. It's been wonderful.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast, a special Thanksgiving edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast featuring Dr. John DeGarmo. Dr. John DeGarmo is an expert when it comes to foster care and adoption and caring for kids. He's a fascinating guy, really compassionate guy, and I know you're going to love listening to our conversation. We would be really happy and thankful if you could take a minute to vote for the Reading with Your Kids podcast over at the iHeartRadio Podcast Award. We are in the Kids and Family Podcast competition. We have some really stiff competition, 4 other really fantastic podcasts. We're very unique amongst that group of podcasts. We are the only podcast that is really kind of focusing on inspiring families to read more together and the benefits of reading together. And we're really proud of that, and we're really proud that we've been nominated as a potential iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award winner. So if you do have a minute to go over and vote for us, we would be very, very thankful. We'd also be very thankful if you would take a minute to visit our friends over at littlepassports.com/reading. littlepassports.com/reading. Little Passports is the perfect holiday gift for that curious kid on your list. With the subscription to Little Passports, kids get a fun-filled package each and every month designed to inspire their curiosity in geography, world cultures, or science. Little Passports is perfect for kids of all ages. Order today at littlepassports.com/reading. Hey, we want to thank Robin Albertson Wren for being here today. We want to thank Little Passports, and we want to thank you. Thank you for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking through the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.